I quit my dream job in finance to focus on my lash business full time. Like many of you guys listening, you probably are having a full-time job while you're lashing part-time. And some of you might be at the crossroads like I was, thinking, should I take a chance on myself and go full-time? Let me tell you a little bit of my story and what happened and how I came to that decision to finally take that leap of faith. And maybe after, you might consider taking that chance yourself and for your business. So about 3 or 4 years before I made that decision, my whole life was literally focusing on getting into finance, and in London of all places, because it's the financial capital of Europe. I had just went back to school and done my undergrad, and then right after I went straight into my master's. And that's one of the reasons why I actually came to the UK in the first place, is to do my master's in finance. It was around the time where I started my master's degree. Lily's my partner in life and also in business. We decided to look into starting our own lash brand. She's actually a lash tech. I'm not. I'm just handling the business side. Many of you guys have known me from that, but maybe you haven't. It originally started as a side hustle idea. She brought this idea to me and I thought it was ridiculous, but I thought maybe we can make it a chance. Everyone's talking about, let's start a side hustle. You need a second income. You need more than one income. So I was like, okay, maybe this is my side hustle so I can get another income. Now, I got the job I wanted. My family was proud. My parents were really excited because, for them, having a job in finance in a city like London was quite a prestigious thing, and they could talk to their friends about it. It was something really nice to say their son has a master's degree working in finance in London of all cities. It's kind of like working in New York or one of those major cities that a lot of people try to get to and work at. Initially, it went fine juggling 2 jobs, doing the financial job and also doing the Lash Oasis. But then it became more and more difficult, like probably many of you guys are facing right now. So I did like my job, but I have to be honest. When you work in a job, you don't actually do a lot of the finance that you started practicing in school. What I mean is, when you're just starting out, you don't really know all that much. You know a lot about theory and things like that. And they're not really letting you touch anything that you can really mess up on because you're just new and you have to learn a lot of new information and how to do certain things before they really let you touch anything too complicated. And after a while, as you can imagine, it became harder and harder to juggle both. And to make both work, I had to actually commute to London, which took an hour and a half one way. So literally I had 3 hours of commute every single day on the train and on the tube. And I was studying for my professional qualifications. I was doing the CFA and the professional license. I was literally doing 4 really difficult things all at once. So you can imagine, I was on the train, and if you ever taken the train or the tube during rush hour, it was packed. Like, people were on the phone. Sometimes I couldn't even find the seat. I had to stand up and try to read the book and try to do test questions to prepare myself. So during the train ride, I was using that to study. When I got to work, obviously I had to actually do work. And during whatever break times I had, I would spend it answering any emails. Customer has questions, where a lot of times parcels get lost and I had to find out what happened and try to reship it. And at this time, Lily was at home working. So we were really working on different schedules, but we had to work on the same thing at once or together, which made it quite difficult. Now, there wasn't really like an aha moment where I was thinking, okay, now this is the time to quit. However, Lily and I did set some benchmarks that we would try to hit. If we passed these milestones, I told her, we got together and said, I should probably leave my job because this makes it a real business. And what I mean by that is, we had a number in mind that we had to hit to believe that this was something that we can focus really our full concentration on, our full focus on, and make it a real business and actually live off of it. And it was quite strange because initially I was really excited to get to that goal. As closer and closer we got to it, because it happened so fast. We were kind of struggling in the beginning, but that's another story for another time. Afterwards, we're actually doubling our sales and revenue every month. And as I was getting closer and closer to hitting that goal, I was like, slow down. I'm not quite ready. Because, like many of you guys are probably feeling right now watching this, if you're at that crossroad like I was, it's really terrifying because having both or having multiple jobs and having that steady income, it's very comforting and it feels safe. Letting that go, whether even if you didn't like that job, it can feel really terrifying because that's a steady income you know that you get every single month. And as you know, if you have a business yourself, there's no guarantee. If you don't make money, you don't make money, and that's it. So right about when I was hitting that benchmark, I had told my parents about my decision because they hadn't understood that this was my plan. They thought it was just going to be a side thing, and they were, I wouldn't say against it, but they were really hesitant for me to do this. As you know, as I mentioned, for them, they've always really expected me to do great things, and getting this job was a really great thing that I had done in my life. And I was kind of a slacker, if I'm honest, for the last 10 years, just like enjoying my life, doing whatever I wanted to. And it was at that point, I feel like they were like, wow, he's actually getting serious and getting his life together. So to tell them, hey, I'm actually going to leave all of this and start a lash business of all things, for them, it was, I bet, quite shocking. But at this point, I really had already made up my mind anyways. So I was going to do it. I was going to take that leap of faith and go in and tell my boss that I'm going to quit, which was really hard because I actually liked him. It was a good boss. It was a good place to work. And I felt like kind of bad quitting on him in a way, if that makes sense. And you might feel the same thing. Like it feels like you're just quitting. But in all honesty, this is your life. And that's what I realized when I was making that decision. This was my life and I'm the only one that has to live it. And even though I liked the job and it was what I wanted, at some point I kind of realized I didn't like working for someone else. For me, I really like to be in control of my life. And that's what the business gave to me. When I saw what I was doing every day, I felt like to a certain extent, I had full control of my life. There were certain things I had no control over, like parcels getting missing. We were using Royal Mail at this time and we're losing so many packages. And, you know, I'll tell you a story. We signed up for their corporate account or business account. And I thought things were going to be easier, but it was actually harder. We had like a business hotline we called. And what I found sometimes calling them, the business hotline took longer to reach a person than the normal one. I don't know why that is. So sometimes I would just like, okay, screw that. They'll tell you the wait time is like 30 minutes. Like, what? I can't be sitting here 30 minutes. My time, I barely have time to do what I need to do. So I'll call the regular number. And the person I talk to is so rude sometimes. They'll be like, you're supposed to call the business number. This is like, what difference does it make? Can you just tell me, where's this lost parcel? And I would say most of the time, they don't even give you like an answer. So it's like, I don't know where it is. And you can't go back to your client with that. And I just end up having to reship and eat those losses. That was quite frustrating. But after I quit my job, I realized soon after that this was the right decision for me because before I was waking up at 5 a.m. to commute. And I don't know about you guys, I am not a morning person. And to wake up at 5 a.m. to work at someone else's company was so painful for me. I just can't imagine ever going back to that now. It just felt like something I had to do at that point because it was something I had to do. It's your job, it's your responsibility. But now that I have my own business, I get to set my own hours and I work a lot at night. That's when I focus the best at. So I do a lot of admin stuff, a lot of planning, all of the creative stuff I do in the evening time. And because a lot of our suppliers are in places like Korea right now where I am, I had to call like really late at night to talk to them. So I don't really mind that because like I said, I'm a night person anyways. And I would just appreciate not having to wake up at 5 in the morning, having to go and take the train to work. Now, if you're thinking about taking that leap of faith like I did, let me give you some advice on what I think you should look for in making that decision. Besides the financial side, I think you should probably have a few months of savings just in case as a buffer, because you never know how well business will go once you go full time. But number one, I want you to think, is your business, your lash business, capped at the moment? Meaning you can't really grow it anymore. You have to turn away clients and you're closing your booking. That's because you can't physically work more hours. You only have 24 hours in a day. And because you're doing lashes, you're trading time for money. You can't actually work anymore at one point. If you're feeling like that, that might be a good sign to start taking your lash business as a full-time job. The second thing I would look for is, during your job, are you actually thinking a lot about your lash business? Because that's where I was at one point. As much as I loved finance, there become a certain point where I actually became really obsessed with the lash business and I was intrigued by everything and I was trying to learn everything I could about it. And you're feeling like you can't actually grow that business anymore because you have to focus on balancing both. I actually think that is a time for you to consider leaving your job and taking that leap of faith like I did, because I can honestly tell you the best decision I ever made working for myself. Obviously, my partner Lily and I worked together, but it was probably the best and smartest thing I ever done. And I'm not going to promise you it's going to be smooth sailing because it hasn't been for us. And I can honestly say the stress level is way more than working a job. But for me, having that control over my life and my business is completely worth it. So after this video, do you feel like you should actually try to make this a full-time thing like I did? If yes, I would love to hear about your business in the comments. If you like this video, make sure to follow along because I will be sharing more stories to help you make decisions and grow your business.